off guard by praising them first. So I'm ready for whatever you got. No, that was lovely. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate you making the trip to be here. Let's talk about the Trans Mountain Pipeline. I've heard that it's going to add 0.25% to Canada's national GDP, which sounds small, but for one infrastructure project, it's a lot. I've heard it's going to create a boom for Alberta's oil and gas industry. But what I'm not hearing so much is, now that the project is done, what are the existing environmental risks? So can you run that down for me?
I mean, they've been well known for so long, and
It's good to review them though. Now that
it is, done, right? And when I started seeing the news stories and realizing that this is the month, this is the week, oil is starting to flow, I was possessed by grief, by a state of real sadness, thinking about the thousands and thousands of Vancouverites over more than a decade who fought this project because we love our beautiful city. And for the Indigenous leadership in the pipeline battles, folks who have been taking care of this place since time immemorial. So, and then I started remembering all of the corruption, the venality, the bullying, just the crappiness of this whole enterprise. And I'm born up on a new wave of outrage. If I spontaneously combust in the next 7 minutes, I hope you got a fire extinguisher. I don't want you and the crew to get hurt.
We do. We're prepared.
So $34 billion, $850 for every living Canadian.
Wow.
Children and adults.
Yeah.
Just a massive, unprecedented subsidy to an industry that made $63 billion in 2022 alone.
They needed it, Avi.
Yeah.
They needed that money.
And now that, some years of construction jobs for dudes working, to lay the pipe and to do this huge mega project is over, that's it. So we've given an unbelievable amount of money. What has it done? Well, maybe it'll add $3 a barrel to the dirtiest, and most expensive and hard to extract and process oil on Earth, which will enrich the oil and gas sector. And while it does that, it's a massive public expense. Basically we've built an 1,100 kilometer fuse to one of the biggest carbon bombs on Earth.
Okay.
And this month we're setting a match to it. The expansion of production in the Alberta oil sands is driving Canada's emissions.
Right.
It's now like almost a third of our national emissions is just coming from the oil sands.
Wow.
So it's erasing all the other climate progress we're making in every other sector, in every other province. And we're dealing with an industry that it just wants more. They're not reducing production as we know they need to. They're increasing production year after year after year, and governments, and we know if there's a conservative government under Poilievre, it'll be worse. But the Trudeau government, which was supposed to be the climate government, made a deal at the very beginning of its administration to build this pipe, and it's a disaster on every front.
But carbon emissions aside, this oil now is going to be transported from Alberta to Burnaby in the safest manner, right?
Well, let's talk about the health risks.
Please.
So the human health risk assessment that was done by the pipeline company as part of the proposal by a subcontractor for TMX was utterly rejected by the health authorities of the Lower Mainland. Has
Wow.
never been accepted. And so there is no agreed upon risk assessment for human health. So if there's a spill, when there's a spill, because there's always a spill, there's 7 spills, major spills a year, whether it's a tanker spill or a pipeline spill, they are a regular feature of transporting oil. Let's say one of these tankers, the huge Aramax tankers, spills a significant portion of its load, like 2/3, which is not unprecedented. Let's say 0.5% of that oil makes it to shore. 25,000 people will have to be evacuated.
Really?
Somewhere between Ironworkers Bridge, Second Narrows Bridge, Lionsgate Bridge.
Wow.
This is the area, right? And it's, these are massive tankers. We're going from one a week to one a day. And there's no currently agreed plan to address the human health impact. If it lights on fire, 100,000 people will need to be evacuated. These figures come from a public letter written by Canadian Association of Physicians for the Environment to George Heyman, to the Environment Minister, saying, we need like DFO, the feds, the Coast Guard, all the health authorities, the province, the municipalities need to get together and make a plan for evacuation for human safety. They've met once in January of this year, and they don't have a really fully articulated and agreed upon plan to protect us here in Vancouver when these tankers start going. So the Canadian Association of Physicians for the Environment has written a letter signed by tons of different groups and individuals saying, Heyman, hey, Don't let one of these tankers go through until we at least have a plan to take care of the people.
Yeah.
And we know the risks to the environment, to the orcas, to other marine life. The Tsleil-Waututh, Reuben George, the great leader of the Tsleil-Waututh Sacred Trust, which is their initiative to stop the TMX pipeline. I spent time with him in Kates Park, Weyowichin, and looking across at the tanker terminus across the water. You know, there are sea lions popping up now that they haven't seen in decades. The Tsleil-Waututh have brought back a lot of the ecology of that whole area in the last decade, and all of that is at risk.
Can't the southern resident killer whales just swim away? Like, they'll be okay, right? I mean, I'm really more concerned about them than the humans. Humans kind of suck.
You know, we're all in this together.
Sure.
And this is what we've learned in this period of climate catastrophe. And, you know, I think the smoke and fire season, summer, which is coming up, next, is going to be another reminder that we in Canada are just a complete outlier. You look at all the other G8 countries, we're the only country in the G8 and among the richest countries in the world that are making like a third of humanity's climate pollution, who are still way above our 1990 levels. We have not come down in any significant way because of the unending growth of oil and gas production in Canada. And this pipeline is like the biggest goddamn straw in the sweetest frickin' milkshake for these people that are like with cartoon villain glee, rubbing their hands at planetary destruction. Okay. How are we just okay with this?
Avi, really quickly, we have about a minute left. Let's set aside the environmental risk. Let's just pretend you're wrong.
Yeah. Pretend I'm wrong? Wait,
let's
okay,
just pretend for a sec. Got it. Will the price at the pump for British Columbians, especially in Vancouver, where we pay the highest gas prices, will that come down because of this pipeline?
Nope. It's all for export. It's all got to be refined at special refineries that are basically in California and the Gulf Coast, and there's maybe one in China that can handle this heavy oil.
So I'm not even getting that back in gas.
Zero benefit, baby. Zero benefit. There's only one thing that really affects gas prices.
Yeah.
The proximity to a holiday weekend. Then, miraculously, the market invisibly decides that they got to go through the roof. None of this will help gas prices. None of this will help individuals, consumers, families. It is just a gift to the most profitable industry, as Bill McKibben says, in the history of money. Thank you, Trudeau Liberal government. Thank you, Harper decade before. We are in it now. And now we have to start thinking about how do we undo the damage that we're doing. And I'm still up for the fight.
Wow. Avi, a pleasure to chat with you.